Hi, this is a book review for a book that I read recently and would recommend actually. It's called Affluenza and it's by a guy called Oliver James. And if you notice, affluenza, it's a play on words. Affluent to do with having lots of money, enza, it being a disease. So Oliver James is a psychologist by training, but you don't need to have done psychology to understand this book. It's basically about explaining why Britain, America, the other English-speaking countries in the world have the highest rates of mental illness in the world. And that level of mental illness has been increasing a lot over the last 50 years or so, and especially since the 1970s. And Oliver James, he visits lots of different countries. He looks at some English-speaking countries, like America, UK, Australia. He also visits some countries which are also quite wealthy and advanced, like Japan, but have got very low rates of mental illness. And his argument is that there's a type of social factors and economic factors in English-speaking countries that are promoting people becoming anxious, stressed, depressed, and he calls this affluenza. Essentially, he thinks that basically the kind of culture of greed that we have in Britain, America, Australia, is making people incredibly depressed because people's obsession with money, with wealth, is kind of destroying their lives, and we need to move away from a culture of being interested in money, being interested in success at all costs, to a culture where it's not just winner takes all, and everybody gets by reasonably well. So it's a mixture of stuff about us having to have social equality to to have happiness. It's an interesting book. I mean, it's a mixture of psychology, sociology, and politics. I personally think it'd be slightly better if he didn't talk about it in, psychiatric terms, because he says that capitalism, or the British and American type of capitalism, is making us sick. That's probably true, but I mean, you can think of other societies which are happy, but aren't necessarily ones we'd want to ape. So, for example, in Japan, Japanese housewives appear to be, extremely happy, extremely kind of healthy mentally, very low rates of depression, at least statistically. But at the same time, well, perhaps they have quite limited, unfulfilled lives. Is there a trade-off between being happy and, living a full and interesting life? Perhaps living an interesting life means that you're a bit less happy, in a way. Anyway, just something to think about. Good book to read, quite accessible, very chatty. You can dip in, dip out, that kind of stuff. Okay.